spoke to her, she said, about my pity party. Probably all have those parties. Invited a few people to those parties. The Joyce, you can be pitiful or powerful, but you cannot be both. That's power. You can be pitiful or you can be powerful, but you cannot be both. So all of that boils down to a choice, which is what we'll look at here. Two, three. There we go. Are we focusing in? Hey guys, how are you? Is that on? No. Okay. Okay. So the first scripture there that we're going to look at is over in Numbers, the 14th chapter. And here is the congregation of Israel complaining, griping, grumbling, and oh, poor me. And all the congregation, they said, cried out with a loud voice, and they wept that night. And all the Israelites grumbled and deplored their situation. Then she goes on and says, about herself, which I thought was good, and we'll comment about that scripture in just a minute. It says, pity was hard for me to give up. I had used it for years, notice this, to comfort myself when I was hurting, which is a great point. It says, the minute that someone hurts us, the moment we experience disappointment, the devil begins to whisper lies to us about how cruelly and unjustly we have been mistreated. All you need to do is listen to the thoughts rushing into your mind during such times, and you will quickly realize how the enemy uses self-pity to keep us in bondage. All right, let's look at a little bit of an order of sometimes, not all the times, how often the place of self-pity, the place of introspection, the place of feeling harmed or some way hurt by outside circumstances beyond our control. So the first thing we have, you all are used to this word, we use it many times, and that is expectations. We have an expectation, not necessarily a bad one, not necessarily an immoral one, not necessarily one that is circumspect in any way, but just simply an expectation that we had. Then all of a sudden, that expectation, we'll put an X through it, does not come to pass. And then in that moment, when it doesn't come to pass, again, these are all optional emotions, optional thought patterns. But then after that, we can find ourselves getting angry, and maybe not even as strong as angry, maybe even just frustrated. Let's put frustrate. Oh, we got a little echo coming back through. Oh, okay. So in this place, we have an expectation that an event that we had anticipated that was going to work for our benefit was going to happen, but then it did not happen. So we become angry, we become frustrated, and in that place, if we hold on to that anger for any period of time and we let it congeal down on the inside because expectations didn't come to pass, then we can have often the challenge of moving into bitterness. Every person that has a place of bitterness always, I won't say always, but many times has an unfulfilled expectation. My husband didn't, my wife didn't, the job didn't, the finances didn't, the church didn't, my friends didn't. They shoulda, they coulda, they oughta, but they didn't. And so then I'll go over to this place right here. Now, in that place of anger, there's often a side note that comes from this, and that is I may come back and try to force feed this expectation to work for my benefit. Now, that can move you into some codependent behaviors. Well, I wanted somebody to do something. Well, I wanted some situation to do something, and I couldn't get it to happen. So even though I'm angry and I'm upset, I'm frustrated that didn't take place, I'm going to go back here and try to make this thing happen. I'm going to try to push an agenda that maybe the Lord didn't want. And you see, at that place, we can have codependency. Because now, I'll just put DEP, that's enough, I can't spell it out. At that place, I can try to go and make the situation come to pass, and then I use flesh to try to determine that. Then, if that doesn't work, then I come back a second time and get angry and say, well, now, not only is there something wrong with the situation and that expectation didn't come to pass, but now something's wrong with me because I could not make it come to pass. You ever try to fix somebody else? Change another circumstance? Even though that circumstance looked like it was immovable, incorrigible, but then I said, I'll come back and move in on that. Now, let me tell you from a pastoral standpoint what I've seen. Bitter people in the church, angry because situations didn't change, angry because they didn't get a position, upset because they thought they had a ministry that should have been acknowledged, that should have been looked up to, that they should have had it, and then it didn't get done. Now, in my situation, I have been on both ends of that stick. When I was working for Oral Roberts, many times I felt like I ought to be promoted, I ought to be lifted up. And you see, you go back and use law to do that. Well, I've been in